Just hold on a second. Kathy and Dave can play something, and I'll be right back. Thank you.
Well, good day and welcome, gentlemen and ladies. May I introduce myself? My name is Joseph Charles. Now, that is the Irish pronunciation of Charles. The Irish have always been able to make the plain sound fascinating, which also made us very suitable to be newsmen, of course. So I've come to set the record straight. I was born in Ireland. When, where, who knows? I was a bookseller, a printer, a publisher. My first newspaper appeared in Gettysburg, Pennsylvania, with the rising of a new century.
Fair who grace this famous city, come listen if you've time to spare, and I'll rehearse this ditty. And for the opportunity, conceive yourselves quite lucky, for 'tis not often that you see a hunter from Kentucky. Oh, Kentucky, the hunters of Kentucky. Oh, Kentucky, the hunters of Kentucky. We are a hardy, free-born race, each man to fear a stranger. Whate'er the game, we'll join the chase, despoiling time or danger. And if the daring foe annoys, whate'er his strength and forces, we'll show 'em that Kentucky boys are alligator horses. Oh, Kentucky, hunters of Kentucky. Oh, Kentucky, hunters of Kentucky. Oh, Kentucky, hunters of Kentucky.
Gettysburg Gazette, 1800. Experience teaches us that newspapers have their good and evil efforts, tending to irritate or bring into unison the passions of party spirit. The former, too often the case, the latter, too rare.
I believe that a publisher had a great responsibility to the people, as much, if not greater, than that of the politicians.
Papers convey instruction, generalize knowledge, excite arguing, remove ill-founded prejudice, convey discoveries, warn us by example, instruct by censure, diffuse taste, correct absurdities, record transactions which engage admiration or rivet disgust, deter the flagitious from crime, lest they should be held up to public detestation, awe the proudest into some sort of morality.
And finally, they watch over individual and public liberties, which can never be violated while the press remains free.
It was 1808. Governor Meriwether Lewis thought the time had come for a newspaper in the territory.
Dear Charles, I know not of any other point in the United States where I conceive a country paper or printer would meet with more encouragement than in St. Louis.
There were a few problems, small problems, like the American Revolution was a skirmish. We had no press, no type, little paper, less ink, and no newsmen to speak of in the Louisiana Territory. They could not even print their own laws. From the Territory Governor, James Wilkinson, to Secretary of State James Madison, September 1805.
Sir, we are exceedingly embarrassed for the want of a printing press. Our population will not support a press. We are destitute of funds. At present, no law can be circulated until it has been sent to Kentucky, printed, and returned. Please send forward a font of types, ink, paper, and apparatus, and we will doubtless reimburse the expense.
I arrived. The press arrived on a flatboat. The office was at Main Street, and the printer was Mr. Hinkle. And then in early 1808, I proclaimed, "The inviolation of the press is coexistent with the liberties of the people. They live and die together. It is in the vestal fire upon the preservation of which the fate of the nation depends. And the most pure hands officiating for the whole community should be incessantly employed in keeping it, the press, alive. It is now proposed to establish a weekly paper to be called the Missouri Gazette and Louisiana Advertiser. We prefer to let the columns of the Gazette speak for themselves, to live and die by the character that it may acquire." A grand and ebullient beginning to the news in Missouri. Now recall, if you please, that this was a new land, a new territory, new people, sights, visions, hopes. So, of course, there was no news to speak of. And we must needs look to the east and to Europe for items of interest.
Rutland, Vermont, June 4, 1808. A detachment of militia marched from this vicinity on Tuesday to put a stop to the disgraceful potash and lumber rebellion on Lake Champlain. The rebellion is confined to mostly foreigners.
Sir John Duckworth of England commanded his squadron to cruise in search of the French. War appears to be at hand.
What local news there was usually had to do with drinking.
July 4th, 1808. That the utmost harmony, hilarity, and urbanity prevail.
Huzzah! Let harmony and peace reign among us.
Huzzah! Let mirth and glee pass round among us, and tranquility and friendship be perched in every brow.
Huzzah! To Brigadier General William Clark, may the vigilance of all the executive eye ever be vigilant in detecting treason and conspiracy.
Huzzah!
May American bravery overcome British knavery.
Huzzah!
May the American fair oppress to their bosoms none but freemen, and spurn from their embraces the followers of vice and corruption.
Huzzah! Huzzah! Huzzah!
Martin said to his men, "Fie, men, fie."
Martin said to his men, "Who's the fool now?" Martin said to his men, "Fill thou the cup and I the can. Thou hast well drunken, man. Who's the fool now?"
I saw a flea heave a tree. Fie, man, fie.
I saw a flea heave a tree. Who's the fool now? I saw a flea heave a tree 20 miles out to sea. Thou hast well drunken, man. Who's the fool now?
I saw a maid milk a bull.
Fie, man, fie. I saw a maid milk a bull. Who's the fool now? I saw a maid milk a bull. Every stroke a bucket full. Thou hast well drunken, man. Who's the fool now?
And very often, no matter the news, the editor was absent from the printing office. I was looking for advertisers, money, and subscriptions, and news. It was neither simple nor easy to fill 4 pages a week.
August 2nd, 1808. Our readers will excuse the barrenness of the Missouri Gazette this week, as the mail due on Sunday did not arrive.
1808. The post rider arrived here last post day with very few papers, owing, as we learn, to his having lost our end of the mail. The blunders of this man has occasioned some considerable embarrassment. We have had no mail at one period for over 9 weeks, besides several other failures. People are disgusted.
St. Louis, March 1809. A report has been in circulation here for several days past and has obtained some credit that our government has declared war against England and France. Now, though such an event is probable, we think this report is premature. How peculiarly aggravating is the failure of the mail at this crisis.
As Missouri grew in stature and fame, we turned from European news to local events.
By the last mail, we received the melancholy account of the premature death of His Excellency Governor Lewis by his hand at the Chickasaw Bluff. The party stopped for the night and became much alarmed at the governor's behavior. He appeared in a state of extreme mental alarm, and before he could be prevented, discharged the contents of a brace of pistols in his head and breast. The governor of late had been very much afflicted with fever.
We are compelled to complain of the wretched state of the Post Office Department in this quarter. By especially grace, we sometimes receive one mail in 2 or 3 weeks, and then perhaps receive only 1 or 2 papers. Where this pillage of papers exists, we cannot learn. We sincerely wish that all the postmasters on the line from Washington to this place would only do their duty and send on such papers as are committed to their charge.
St. Charles, 1809. There is now living within 1 mile of this village 3 persons whose ages put together amount for more than 300 years. 2 are females and capable of attending to their domestic affairs. Being at the house of the youngest lady, 97, I was very much surprised to see her jump through a window in the back part of the house, in preference to going through a door and going around. The window being a full 3.5 feet above the ground.
January, St. Louis. The weather continues unusually severe. The old inhabitants of this town say they have not had such a continuance of hard frost these 20 years. We regret extremely our want of a thermometer to enable us to record the degrees of heat and cold in this quarter of our country.
Careful boatman wanted. 13 boatmen is wanted to navigate a few boats to Orleans to start about the 15th of next month. The customary wages will be given. William Clark, August 1809.
High winds or waters or some other cause prevented the post rider from traveling last week. Having no other matter of moment, we have continued the French bulletins. Sunday may bring our diligent Mercury and enable us to inform our patrons of the news.
Oh, freedom. Oh, freedom. Oh, freedom over me. And before I'd be a slave, I'd be buried in my grave and go home to my father and be free. No more moaning, no more moaning, no more moaning over me. And before I'd be a slave, I'd be buried in my grave and go home to my father and be free. No more crying, no more crying, no more crying over me. And before I'd be a slave, I'd be buried in my grave and go home